I would like to thank the BSPI for asking me to speak to you today about the work I have been involved in, helping the visually impaired to appreciate botany. My name is Falgunee and I am a naturalist belonging to the Darlington and Teesdale Naturalist Field Club. This club has been a member of the BSPI for 127 years. Traveling in wild places and looking at plants and animals are my hobbies, and I'm passionate about dandelions. I'm going to talk to you today about a project called Sensing the Wild, connecting visually impaired people with nature. How to help make the natural world more accessible to the visually impaired, including my activities during the COVID-19 lockdown. I will then go on to discuss what we can do as BSBI members to make the study of botany and fieldwork more accessible to those with visual impairment and other disabilities. This project was helped by the Tees Valley Wildlife Trust, working with a social enterprise organization called Going for Independence to connect the blind and partially sighted people with nature. It was funded by the Heritage National Lottery Fund. At last year's annual exhibition, I presented a poster and a short talk about this project. There were four separate experience events planned for 2019 in the summer, autumn, and winter, and the last one in spring 2020. We took a group of visually impaired people out for a guided walk with some one-to-one support. Training was given, showing us how to make the wild space more accessible and how to assist a blind or partially sighted person. I would particularly like to credit and thank Lee Nicholson, who organized the project, and Mary Hast for taking the photographs. I have included a link to the project so you can read more about it later. We take nature for granted, but visually impaired people cannot. So, due to primary sight loss at birth, have never seen the flora that we know and love. Others may feel they have lost the ability to enjoy it after suffering from acquired visual impairment later in life. We explored the local parks and woodlands, touching and feeling the texture of and smelling leaves, trees, barks, seeds, cones, and wildflowers, each with their unique perfume. Also, listening to the different sounds made by each tree as the leaves changed and fell. Samples were collected as a take home memory. The last work for this project was planned for spring 2020, but then sadly cancelled due to the lockdown. Being shielded helped me to understand the isolation that having a disability can result in. In place of the spring walk, I was asked to record a podcast for them. Undaunted, I took my visually impaired friends with me on a virtual walk through the same woodland. At this time of self isolation, this was one way to bring some joy into their life by recalling the memory of our walk together. Visually impaired friends took this journey with me, and you are about to experience a small extract. I have included link to the full experience here. Thanks to Lee Nicholson and Louis Mars for providing these links. Hello friends, welcome to this walk in the South Park, Darlington. I'm Fal and I'm shielding myself because of coronavirus, so I cannot be with you. But I'm meeting you at the gate of this park. Then we'll walk together to enjoy the senses of nature. These are my memories of our day together. Now we turn left after the gate, and I meet you at the first tree on your left. It is a hornbeam tree. You are touching the trunk of the tree, which is smooth but has slight undulated ridges. Now step back a little and feel the leaf-like crispy bracts hanging down in front of you from the narrow branches of the tree. We follow the path and discover a lovely spine-smelling conifer woodland. You take a deep breath and the air is filled with quite a different perfume. I have given you some soft scale-like leaves, very different from the leaves you have touched before.
You can hear bees buzzing and birds singing in the sensory garden. You are enjoying the sensation and experience of touching and smelling many small plants, flowers, and sculptures. You are smiling with joy of this new experience. You carry on walking with your guide, and I meet you at the bandstand near a very large tree called Atlas Cedar. You all start laughing as I say that I have climbed this tree especially for you to get some large scaly cones and needle shaped leaves. Now we walk together up the path until we come across some magnificent English oak tree. As you start to wrap your arms around the trunk of the tree, you realize that you need two or three people to hug the whole tree. You are touching the crunchy dry leaves with carved edges and discovering the glass like smooth acorn that have fallen under the tree. Now you are standing near the clock tower, and there is a huge multi stem Wellingtonia tree standing in front of you. You touch the ovoid cone and sharp, scaly leaves and squeeze the red, spongy bark in the palm of your hand. What a different tree that is! Now you are smiling, so happy at the end of your Sensing the Wild walk with us. Thank you for walking with me today. Hope that my words today have inspired each of you to go away and think about how you can make your own niche in botany accessible to people with a disability, including sensory loss. Botany is for everyone, so there is no reason why the visually impaired cannot identify plants, trees, and flowers, as well as get pleasure and fulfillment from this. I have asked myself, what more can we do? And the answer is plenty. In fact, working with the visually impaired has taught me a lot. They have forced me to consider many aspects of sensory identification, such as the smell of similar but distinctly different species. And of course, the visually impaired are much more tuned in to using their other senses more effectively than we do. Consider the simple example of selecting species for an educational biodiversity garden. To teach the visually impaired to identify dandelions, I would choose three distinctly different dandelions for them to start with. Ideally, they would feel and smell different, with different leaves, stems, and flowers. These core principles could apply to any other native wild species. To enable the independent access to the educational garden, the path would require touch sensitive markers, way markers, to find my botanical specimen without assistant. This is similar to the way stair railings are marked, so the last three steps are clearly indicated. I might create a dedicated audible training guide for my selected tree dandelions, which can be heard on a mobile phone app or carried as a lanyard mounted audio guide. Our BSBI members could add to this, creating a library of audible resources. Educational and inclusivity body systems might need to be established to encourage the visually impaired to take part in fieldwork and access educational programs. Talking guides and mobile phone apps would help. We have to consult with others to find out the best forum to publicize this accessibility work. We will also need to access training ourselves to ensure that we know how to help the visually impaired to learn safely. The RHS could work in partnership with the RNIB to make these changes to their existing gardens, including the use of Braille when planting new areas. The BSBI can signal how suitable its outdoor events are for people who have difficulty walking on steep paths or uneven grounds. They can also look at suitable accessibility adjustment at indoor events, such as hearing loops, wheelchair use, and provision for guide dogs. There are so many things we can do to make botany accessible for everyone. However, the most important thing is we have to want to do it. Botany can be for everyone. Let us work together to make it more accessible for the visually impaired. Thank you for your kind attention.